Hey guys, how all of you beautiful people are doing? And yes, this is the next part of Life as Goku. Kris Lander is the definition of average. Average student going to an average school, living an average life until one day a trunk kissed him a little too hard and he is thrown through the void. When he wakes up, he finds out that he is in the body of Son Goku. With his new life, he will be anything but average and rise to the top until he becomes a god. So let's start without any delay. All of their backs had cold sweat permeating from their pores. Goku especially had a terrible feeling. This gut-wrenching feeling that you can do nothing about. He needed to do something, or else this feeling would stay longer than he would like. Walking out wordlessly, he went to the open area. Shin and Kibito assumed he needed a breath of fresh air for thinking. This was a huge blunder after all. With Buu in possession of a time ring, he could effectively go into the future and absorb the strong fighters, then becoming stronger than ever. Shin needed to call the destroyer god Beerus for help in a situation this massive. Luckily, the time rings are restricted to only traveling to the future. Traveling to the past with them is virtually impossible. All he needed to do is alert Beerus and Whis about the situation, then any time in the future that Pinkhead decides to pop up in the future G.O.D and Angel would already know to look out for him. With this, it would restrict Buu greatly from creating chaos in the future. At least, that is what Shin learned when becoming a Supreme Kai. He never actually used the time rings before, as it was wholly unneeded, with its only function is looking into the future. Using his telepathy, he knocked on Beerus' mental door. As usual, he was asleep, no big surprise there. So he knocked on a much friendlier door as his second option. This door was always open. Whis, thank Zeno you are available. Tragic news has befallen us that we must attend to with the utmost urgency. Currently, the entire building they were in shook with great vigor. Dust fell from the roof of the interior, indicating that the integrity of the building was likely damaged from such an intense shake. Excuse me Whis, something is going on outside. It'll just be for a second. Not wanting to be rude, Shin left the call on hold and went outside to see what that Saiyan was doing. For all he knew, Buu could have faked them out and returned to this timeline already. Unknown to him, Whis was a curious fellow by nature. Sitting at his table, he put down his teacup and fiddled with the orb on top of his staff for a little. It took less than a second for an image to show up like television broadcasting what is unfolding in the sacred land of Kais. Looking outside, all he saw was Goku carrying the Z sword. Oh, he is probably training in preparation to fight Buu. A logical thought coming from the Supreme Kai. Unfortunately, he forgot that you can't apply logic to the being known as Goku. Shin was going to go back to his call until another shake happened right next to him with greater force. Startled at what kind of training he was going through with that sword, he soon found out that there was no training at all. Goku was swinging the sword straight into the ground. It didn't look like he wanted to cut the ground, as he was swinging it with the sharp edges facing outward, not touching a single blade of grass. Like a hammer, he kept on smacking it on the ground. If Kaioshin didn't know any better, he would have thought Goku was trying to break the indestructible Z sword. Much to his relief, Goku stopped after a few more hits, looking awfully confused with the sword. Before Shin could ask any questions, Goku powered up directly to his Super Ape form. Although not much time has passed since he last used it, Goku never stops training. Whether he is spending time with his family or tending to some other matters, a Saiyan such as himself keeps on going, never losing the motivation to get strong. He held the sword up horizontally and lifted up his knee, placing the sword on top of it. Without Kachin, he had to improvise. Being weaker than Kachin by a significant margin if Goku remembered their interaction with each other, he held confidence he could break it with his power. Wait Goku, what are you doing? Strange, why is he doing that? Shin and Whis shared their thoughts on the matter, but all they could do is watch as Goku broke the swords back into pieces. The Eastern Supreme Kai was on his knees with his mouth gaping open. He resembled a fish as his mouth opened and closed as many times as he saw a piece of the metal fly before his eyes. The Z sword, why would you do that? One of the only times Goku experienced the rage of the Shin, the Supreme Kai. Rarely has he ever been angry. There is nothing to be angry about, and with his natural temperament, getting him mad was an achievement by itself. Ignoring the achievement that Goku gained, he had to explain the seemingly insane thing he just did right now. Do you know what you have done, Son Goku? You took out one of our options in dealing with this existential threat. Shin, knowing about the Z sword only by myths and legends, was misled that it could be a weapon to take down Buu. Magical properties perhaps that negated Buu's regeneration factor. Maybe, but he would never know that because it is in pieces, acting no more than broken glass by your feet. Why you? Shin couldn't speak properly, he was at loss for words. Thankfully, he didn't need to speak anymore before he got interrupted by mysterious laughter behind his back. Hey hey, that feels good. Looking behind him as if he was looking out for a ghost, he saw an old wrinkly man stretching out his limbs as if that did something to benefit him in any way. Phew, that was a long time. Oh, hello there. Who are you? This is the sacred land of the Kais. You can't be here. Who do you think you are talking to? Sheesh, young Kai these days have no manners and no knowledge to boot. The elderly Kai grumbled in response. He was finally released from his prison to get shouted by a youngster. What a warm welcoming. I am a Supreme Kai, can't you tell? From my rocking hairstyle to my fit body, can't you tell this is what you will become when you grow older? I'm at my prime, baby, ha ha ha. What? The appearance of the older Kai completely washed away the agonizing memory of Goku breaking the Z sword into a pleasant but still confusing one. After talking to the old Kai more about the past and how he got sealed, Shin turned to Goku for some answers. How did you know that esteemed elder was trapped inside of the sword? Is that why you broke it? Well. Goku's eyes diverted a bit. I felt something was off about the Z sword. While it was sharp and heavy, it didn't seem to live up to its name as the legends you told me about. I also have a feeling that there was something deeper within, so I took the risk. I see. I have to thank you, Son Goku. If you had not done that, who knows how much longer esteemed elder would be trapped in his prison. I apologize for getting angry with you earlier. Don't mention it, Supreme Kai, but let's not get sidetracked. Let's ask Elder Kai if he knows anything that could help us. Of course, of course. After explaining the situation of Buu to Elder Kai, he understood the gravity of it all. You dimwit, how could you not protect such important tools and let it get stolen by Buu? Apparently, Elder Kai lived such a long time ago that he also knew the notorious Majin Buu and the power he possessed. Please, Elder Kai, help us solve this issue. If what you are telling me is correct, then this is serious. Normally only Supreme Kais can use the time ring. You can only use it without being one if you shared a Potara earring with another Kai. But I highly doubt any sane Kai would agree to associate with Buu, leaving the only option I could think of. Buu, when absorbing the two Supreme Kai in the fight you described long ago, gained their properties and status as a Kai. Of course, how could I not think of that? Shin and Goku thought at the same time. If he has the same status as a Kai, he wouldn't need a Potara earring to travel through time. However, this still doesn't explain why there is a fifth green time ring. If you use a time ring, you can only go to the future, not creating any alternate timelines. As they were discussing, another watchful eye was peeping in their conversation. But he wasn't paying attention to what they were saying, but to a certain individual. Interesting fellow. Despite its best efforts, it can't escape my vision. This soul doesn't belong here. What an interesting human. Unfortunately, I can't observe his soul in more detail and find out more about it through this proverbial looking glass. I would have to go to him to find out the truth. With Lord Beerus sleeping like a cat, who knows, then I will have the time to do so. The angel was squinting his eyes at the orb a little longer, but ultimately decided to put it down and return to drinking his tea. He had plenty of time to investigate later. For now, pastries and tea before Beerus wake up. So what you are saying is that BUU will be forced to come back to this timeline no matter what. Goku was following old Kai's logic, and by all means, it sounds correct. Indeed, with Beerus and Whis tracking the ring at any time BUU goes to the future, he will be forced back into this time. As long as Shin gets to it and informs them. Ah yes, right away. How do you know Beerus will be awake at that time? Doesn't he always sleep at the worst moments? Indeed that is the case, however, with something important as a time ring interfering with the timeline, he will be forced to stop it with all his efforts unless he wants to get erased by Omni King. Shin went back to his call with Whis, who pretended to be on wait the entire time. Shin asked for their help, but unfortunately, for now, Beerus was sleeping and couldn't do anything. I guess it is time for me to head back, since all we can do is wait. See you next time, Elder Kai. Next time I am here, I will have company. Hopefully, you can unlock some of their powers. He needed to get back with his family right away to make sure everything was fine. The ascension to Super Saiyan God has also been delayed for way too long. The power that he would gain from such a simple method was one he needed if he was going against such a cunning BUU. The 5 Saiyans he needed were simple, even more so now that the 2 Saiyan girls are present. Holding 2 fingers onto his forehead, he used instant transmission to teleport back to his house. Arriving on the couch with 18 lazing around watching TV, it was such a dramatic change from a tense situation to such a relaxed one. Oh hey Goku, want some? 18 gave Goku a sharp look and held out some buttered up popcorn that she had on her lap. Goku always wondered if 18 could loosen up her facial expressions at all, but was wise enough not to ask that. Do you know where Cauliflower and Kale are? I need to ask them something. Those 2. They went out shopping, I think. Goku raised an eyebrow at the android that was lazying around on the couch. There weren't many things that one would need to satisfy the young droid. Stability and some excitement were some core factors, and being with Goku there was an endless supply. So endless that it loses some of its lusters over time, making 18 enjoy the simpler things. And you aren't with them. Don't you love shopping? Yeah, for the first few times, it gets boring after a while. Besides, I'm not carrying my own bags. Goku's eye twitched a couple of times while 18 knowing smirked. He couldn't help but get PTSD about the last time he went shopping with 18, only to see about a fourth of the entire trip since there were bags covering his eyes. He shook his head and went to talk to the other 2 girls before taking off towards Vegeta's key signature. Knowing that they would only get mad at him if they interrupted what they were doing, he went to seek Vegeta first. Since technically Kale and Broly were not Super Saiyans, they couldn't participate in the ritual. Fortunately, Bulma, Shishi, and Cauliflower had a baby cooking in the oven. He didn't know how long each one was till due, but by the estimates by the doctor, they were still in their first trimester. Vidal, when she participated, was a couple of months ahead of those three, but hopefully, it would still work. If not, he could always call Raditz instead of waiting. That man did a complete 180 in Goku's mind. He had nearly no faith that he would reach Super Saiyan no matter his heritage, but he managed to surprise him. After telling Vegeta his plans, he agreed and came along. Goku noticed something different with Vegeta's demeanor but spoke nothing of it. It was true, Vegeta had a lot of time to think, and the more he thought, the more the strong pillar he called pride looked fragile before him. He couldn't shake the feeling that something that defines him wholly, or at least that is how he felt, was being replaced since coming to this backwater planet. From meeting Goku to meeting Tights, that wall of pride couldn't keep up with their consistent hammering. Coming back to the compound, it looks like it was the right call to get Vegeta first, since it seemed that Cauliflower and Kale were already back. Yeah, we have been lacking a fifth and proper Super Saiyan for the longest time, which is why we didn't do the ritual. But now there are so many and more to come. They all got into formation for the ritual with Goku at the center. Bulma was the first to nervously go up as the fifth participating member and held her two children's hands. Vegeta and Cauliflower put their hands on Goku's back and inserted their power, as vague as it sounded. To everyone's disappointment, nothing happened. As I thought. Bulma rotated with Shishi, but none of them worked. It was obvious that the fifth spot was the faulty one, not to the fault of the girls. All right, I am going to get Raditz. Be right back. Goku closed his eyes and teleported first to Supreme Kai's place. He didn't really speak with the two Kai again since they already knew what he came there for. Focusing on the direction Raditz left last time, he was able to spot the familiar key of his brother out in the vastness of space. Instantly transmitting to his location, he was fighting a hug green-like creature. The fight was intense, with the creature spitting out various acids that did different effects on each rock it landed on. You can tell that Raditz really loved the thrill of the battle and the situation he was in. Goku didn't want to rip him away from this so fast, but it's not like he will be gone for long. Waiting for a little, he started to get a little impatient since he told everyone back at home that he wasn't going to take long. Hey, Raditz. We need you back on Earth. He didn't want to interrupt, but he was on a schedule. Seeing Goku in the distance, he only acknowledged him with a slight nod. Charging his hands with vibrant purple energy, he fired Double Sunday to end the battle quickly. The dual beams of death landed on the creature, drilling into his very being. Both pierced its chest with two gaping holes. Breathing its last breath, it collapsed with a thud on the ground. Raditz didn't pay it any mind, nor the local residents that went to inspect if the monster that was terrorizing them really was dead. Is it an emergency? Kinda, sorta. Rolling his eyes, he packed up all of his things and led Goku to his spaceship. Understanding what he wants, he used instant transmission with all of Raditz's things in tow. Returning back to the house in one piece, Goku called everyone back outside to continue the ritual. All right, let's do it this time. Goku started to explain what was happening to Raditz and what they were going to do. Although Raditz didn't quite know the gravity of the situation, he can assume that it was heavy, so he agreed. Returning to the open area where they first tried the transformation, they got back into position. Well, looky here. I was going to find and kill that Raditz character first, but it looks like you brought him here. Now all of you tainted Saiyans are here, I can finally kill you myself. Buu. That was Goku's initial thought, but quickly discarded it from his voice and choice of words. Looking up into the sky, all the Saiyans encountered something they couldn't quite explain. It was as if the person before them was someone on a different level. Someone who they couldn't help but bow and acknowledge. The overbearing pressure didn't sway Goku from looking up at the culprit and was shocked at what he saw. Something that he himself had unfamiliar territory in. The flying one bore a striking resemblance to Vegeta and his father before him. He had rugged clothes like he just participated in a fight of the ages. The sharp features on his face couldn't mask the amount of hatred that permeated from his body directed at the Saiyans. His hair was red like the blood that stained his shirt. The eyes that downed on the crew was the most intimidating. The red eyes swept across everyone as if he could peer into their soul. Who dares interrupt this important ritual, and why do you look like me? Vegeta was dumbstruck. The person in front of him looked exactly like him. Only if his Super Saiyan transformation turned him red instead of gold. Who am I? Impudent. The figure glared at them with the signature Vegeta glare that Goku couldn't help but laugh at. They both turned their gaze onto him at such an untimely laugh. What? I couldn't help it. My name is Yamashi. First to transcend to a higher being of Saiyan. The one that will finish what I started long ago, exterminating this savageness from this world. Yamashi. But how? There is no way for him to be here. In this timeline, Bulma didn't even create her time machine. And like Grand Kai said, the time rings can't go back in time. HMPH, Yamashi. I don't understand what you are doing here, but you just wearing my face while spewing that crap got me riled up. Not underestimating his opponent for even a second, Vegeta powered up to true Super Saiyan. The Saiyan God had a shocked look on his face. Impossible, how can you achieve that transformation? Super Saiyan, the first Saiyan transformation that his race has discovered and one that he achieved first. He thought that besides himself and his companions, no one else could achieve it, especially a descendant of him. If they somehow grasped a method to transform to such a power with their nature, they must be exterminated with haste. The killing intent skyrocketed out of Yamashi and he rushed towards Vegeta while Vegeta did the same. The two of them collided mid-air, but the result was quite clear when Vegeta ricocheted off of him like a pebble in the capsule core building. Yamashi had a smirk on his face as Vegeta stood up from the rubble, rubbing the blood away from his mouth. Still, it isn't enough to beat me. Vegeta was about to rush in again to regain some semblance of pride, but Goku stopped him. Wait, Vegeta, that person, he is a Super Saiyan God. Everyone in the venue had varying faces of shock, horror, and curiosity. Vegeta in particular had a grim expression on his face while Yamashi looked over to Goku in amusement. This one seems to be one of integrity and calmness. However the case, he must still be killed. Goku didn't know why Yamashi was here, but clearly, he couldn't let him roam free. Understanding his Saiyan history, Yamashi was the original Super Saiyan and Super Saiyan God and was the opposition in the Saiyan civil war that forced them off of their planet to planet Saidala. This was probably the reason why he wants to kill the descendants to settle the grudge however he saw fit. Why don't we take this somewhere else? Believe it or not, there are billions of innocent creatures roaming this land. If we fight, I'm afraid they would be caught in the crossfire. He didn't know if his strongest transformation would be enough to fight against the god, but he vividly remembered the Battle of Gods. He didn't want Earth to be in the proximity of the match. Sure, where do you propose? Once again, the respect Yamashi showed Goku increased, but he steeled his resolve in seeing this through. Touch my hand. Goku stretched out his hand. As everyone expected, Yamashi hesitated a bit. He was surrounded by enemies on all sides, so he could easily be blindsided. Although he achieved tremendous power, he hasn't nor will lose his vigilance like a true warrior. Goku saw what was going through his mind and retracted all his power. Not one speck of defense nor hostility was shown, making him completely naked in terms of defense. If Yamashi wanted to, he could easily launch a sneak attack close and fatally damage Goku. But Goku was convinced that not a normal person could become a Super Saiyan God. His eyes darted back and forth as he slowly approached the standing Goku. He seemed to be thinking something, but ultimately placed his hand on Goku as he wanted. Smiling, Goku used instant transmission to teleport to the sacred world of Kais. The moment they arrived, Yamashi separated from Goku in a millisecond and observed his surroundings. We are in a place full of divine ki. Such a grand technique to be able to teleport. Using his great senses, he was able to figure out that he was many light years away from they were original. Before we start, may I ask why you are here? Your presence here disrupts many laws of this world. A strange pink creature offered me the opportunity to exact my revenge many millennials later after I was defeated. Of course I will take it, or my spirit would not be able to rest. Pink creature, you mean Buu? It matters not, I do not care the name of the creature. He presented me with a great opportunity and I decided to take it. Enough talk. You don't seem like a descendant of his, but I will kill you all the same. Goku vowed to get to the bottom of this. Even though it's supposed to be impossible, Buu manages to do it and bring Yamashi with him. Even if the energy around Yamashi was chaotic, as if it threatened to bring him back any time, much damage was already done. It was as if this universe adjusted the more power he got quicker. Even with power imaginable at this current age, the universe runs and keeps him on a leash by giving him ludicrous opponents. Goku powered up to Super Ape, making Yamashi contort his face like he swallowed a bug. It doesn't matter. If the universe didn't adjust to me, it would be too boring. Dash. Well, there they go. Bulma shielded her eyes from the sun while looking into the sky. That was enough excitement for the day. Everyone started to return to their normal routine, completely faithful that Goku would stop that mysterious person. Hey Broly, would you like to keep on training? Sure. Broly, like all new additions to the crew, found himself welcomed warmly and integrated seamlessly. The same happened with Chilai. Her nature to be out in space doing whatever she wanted was temporarily subdued with the wonders of Earth that the other girls showed her. Kale and Broly regularly trained together in hopes of controlling their transformations better. They never thought to see someone like them, so they capitalized on the opportunity every chance they could. They have been making better progress than with Goku or by themselves, almost reaching a controlled Super Saiyan state. As everyone went back to what they were doing, they didn't notice the conspicuous pink blob disguising himself with expert magic. He was eyeing them since the start of the encounter with Yamashi. With Yamashi distracting everyone, he was able to sneak by even the eyes of Goku. He closed his eyes to process the information that he attained to make the best move possible. His gaze finally looked towards where Kale and Broly were departing with greed-filled eyes. After he confirmed that the straggler Vegeta left to train harder than ever, he slowly started to drift in their direction. Dash. Back in the sacred land of Kais, Goku and Yamase barely started their fight, but it felt like it would last forever considering the shockwaves that were dispersing throughout the planet. Goku notified Shin beforehand and had him go to a safe distance and watch. Luckily, the world was sturdy, being able to survive the blows that were being exchanged on it by two godly-level beings. This was the first time since Cell that Goku felt inferior in power. He could understand it then when Cell absorbed 21 who was from the future, but someone from the past. A stray punch was thrown at Goku's face and he caught it with his cheek. Falling back, he threw 3 ki blasts in succession to slow Yamashi's rush. It was no avail as he smoothly deflected the ki balls to exploded behind him. When Yamashi got close, Goku launched a kick to his sternum. Yamashi dodged the straightforward strike and with impeccable speed and accuracy, punched Goku in the solar plexus. He narrowly blocked the punch with his hand and counterattacked with a headbutt. Since they were in such close proximity, Yamashi couldn't dodge and was pushed back. Goku was barely holding on with his inferior power despite his training every day. If he wasn't interrupted by Yamashi, he would have been able to complete the Super Saiyan God transformation and the level of power would not have been the same. It was no use in lamenting past events as he readied up for more brutal exchanges, but noticed Yamashi stopped for a second. That transformation, it is weaker than his. I wonder why. He was able to defeat me while he has no chance no matter how much you struggle. Chance. This was a chance. To delve deeper into the lore of Dragon Ball. As a true fan, he had to persuade Yamashi to keep going. Who are you talking about that achieved this transformation? As far as I know, I am the first to do so. Seems like the destruction of your planet lost the annals of knowledge. I will tell you now, young Saiyan, so listen well. About my rival and the person who defeated me and left me to die in space. How could you side with them, after everything that they have done? This new transformation just proves it, that you are on the wrong side. Right or wrong, it doesn't matter now. Once I defeat you, your legacy will be removed from the annals of time. You will be forever looked upon as the villain. Yamashi was backed into a corner. He had tried his hardest with his new Super Saiyan God transformation to reform the Saiyan society. But even with it, he has been pushed to his limit. His comrades that helped him achieve the new form were all captured. Their group labeled as traitors to their own race. The civil war was a long one and the grudge that the current savage society that Yamashi grew up with started very young. As the son of the current king, he was granted many privileges as he grew up. He held a somewhat eventful and content life with his mother, father, and brother. He would fight in his free time and spend time with his family for the rest. Monitoring his people's needs with his dad, playing around with his brother, or helping his mother with other things. Of course, the standard of the Saiyan race wasn't great. Communities and cities would be scattered far from each other and with the Saiyans' attitudes, they weren't really one for bonding. Their technology barely reached the standard for space travel, but even so, they liked their simple lives. If his life was so perfect, what could make him possibly hate on them so? It was one evening when Yamashi was playing with his group of friends. 5 to be precise, and despite Saiyan's nature to not form bonds, these friends had a tight-knit relationship. All of their personalities rubbed off of each other, making them laugh and expressed happiness whenever they got together. Yamashi, father is calling you back to the house. There is something you need to hear. His brother interrupted his time with his friends. His cold stare bore through them all, reminding them that their personalities were different than the average Saiyan. Returning home with his brother, he knelt before his father who was on his throne. Father! Home, come with me. Turning his back to Yamashi, he led him to the small medical that was in the side of his home. Having a confused expression throughout the entire trip, his father kept looking back at him from time to make sure he was following. Entering the medical room, the image of his damaged mother laid before him. He rushed to her side to inspect her. To ask her what was wrong. Mother! Are you all right? What happened? Son, your mother passed away earlier today. What? Tears erupted from his eyes like a tidal wave. They fell off his face like rain in stormy weather as he turned to his father, who still had a cold expression on his face. He looked as if he wanted an explanation, so his father provided him one. Your mother lost a duel. Since she was weaker and started the fight, it is her own fault that she lost. What? We must get revenge. Those savages can't get away like this. Thud. Yamashi held his cheek that was caved in from where his father punched him. The tears forcibly stopped producing but kept rolling down his cheeks as he looked up at his father. Wipe your face, those tears are unsightly. As I said, she lost to no fault but her own. Revenge. It is already humiliating that she lost, there is no need to sully our pride more. It was the only reason I married her, you best remember that. It seems she stopped training after having you too. Such a foolish woman. He couldn't believe what he was hearing. He knew that Saiyan had their emotions in check, but how could you show contempt to your dead wife for losing? How far has this society fallen for this to happen? The 16-year-old boy couldn't take it anymore. His race was a lost cause. They dare kill their own for what? They have no remorse, and from the way their king acted, it didn't seem to stop anytime soon. He had to do it. He had to be the one who changed society. By the only method these savages knew. By force. His hair started turning golden. His eyes started to change color. His father didn't notice anything amiss until the room started to shake like an earthquake. And like a bomb. He exploded. The golden key that surrounded them burst out, destroying the medical room that they were in. Somehow, the bed that had his mother did not get disturbed. His figure started to slowly rise in the air above the castle that his family lived in. Using his newfound powers, his voice echoed all across planet Saidala, stating his intentions. People of the Saiyan race, my name is Yamashi, and I hereby condemn you all. Through the unspeakable actions of many, our ways as a race are too violent. One without thought and only fighting. I will change our ways, listen to me, and we will forge a new path to our future. One of prosperity and peace. Yamashi gave his speech for all to hear. He intended for Saiyans like him, one with emotions, to rise and help him educate the word empathy to the rest. However, even after experiencing the loss of his mother, the family member that he was closest to, he underestimated what the Saiyan race truly was. No one was with him. It was him against the world. In response, many Saiyans from the army and even civilians pushed back against his forceful decree. But under his new power, he was sitting comfortably above them in power. Luckily for the Saiyans, that day was one of a full moon. In planet Saidala, unlike its similar counterparts, its moon became full every few days. Saiyans would also use it to do massive scale fights compared to the ones they were doing before. Under the effect of the full moon, the Saiyans transformed into great apes, giving them a fighting chance. With their big lumbering bodies, even with the 10x power boost, the Super Saiyan Yamashi easily beat them down. That was when someone that he for sure thought was on his side came before him. "Brother, you are planning a revolution." "For what?" "The simple death of another female Saiyan compared to the countless others before her who suffered the same fate." "Stop this instant." His brother appeared before him. Older by many years, the combat experience he garnered surpassed Yamashi by miles. Aiming to be the next king, the young prodigy was respected by many in the army and staff. "You too, brother. Do you not feel anything over mother's death? It seems I have to defeat you too." Yamashi didn't care about the combat experience. With his new power, he could easily destroy him even if he turned into a great ape. His brother's gaze hardened. All hesitation was gone. Not turning around to look at the full moon, he started to transform by himself. Fur sprouted all across his body, coating him in hair. Markings were etched into his facial features, making him look wilder. Yamashi didn't account for this to happen. He, like everyone, underestimated his brother's genius. He was able to condense the great ape transformation into something more compact, bolstering his strength by manyfold. This marked the first battle of the Civil War. It ended with a tie as Yamashi fled the scene, unable to hold his Super Saiyan transformation any longer. Living like an outcast, outside the cities, planning his next attack. Eventually, the friends from before came to him to help him. They too felt the same way he did, and they became a resistance force. A thorn to the Empire's side. One side was a brother filled with pain, righteousness, and a determination for a better future. Another was a brother filled with fighting spirit, loyalty, and the weight of his race on him. They both represented a side and frequently fought against each other. Due to the nature of Yamashi's side, one by one, all 5 friends were able to achieve Super Saiyan. The other side was slowly having a massive disadvantage. They had to keep using power balls in every fight, exhausting elite members to fend off the attacks. With their massive army and tactics, they weren't beaten too bad. "Leader, we can't keep doing this. Their numbers are too big. No matter how much power we have, they outnumber us way too much. I don't think we can keep this up longer." The other members of the group agreed to what he said. They were getting tired and running out of resources to keep fighting with no results. "Haven't you all noticed anything strange about this transformation the more you use it? Like it is incomplete. I feel like I am missing something." At the castle. "Congratulations, my liege. We can finally put an end to this civil war now that you mastered their transformation." The king opened and released his grip, feeling his new power. His father, Yamashi's father, has long passed since Yamashi unlocked his power and blew up the medical room, making him king. No wonder he could beat me easily. After Yamashi grew and grew, his brother could no longer beat him on his own. It was a great deal of embarrassment that he had to use his army to help fend them off as well. "This will not work." His royal advisor revealed a puzzled expression from his outburst. "From what I gathered, this newfound power would barely let me stand toe-to-toe with my brother. I need something stronger. I will be on the training grounds. Don't interrupt me unless another attack happens." Both brothers in the midst of finding new power in hopes of ending the war quicker. They didn't have to wait long for their breakthrough. Just a day later, the Revolution Group launched another attack. In confidence in succeeding, they attacked what they didn't attack since the very start of the war. The castle. The castle shook as Yamashi in his Super Saiyan form launched a ki blast at the infrastructure. "Come out, brother. This is the end." The king could be seen flying through the hole on the top where the attack was situated at. He was already in his ape transformation. Both brothers held the eyes of each other for a minute until Yamashi spoke. This is truly the end. I have reached a power you cannot hope to achieve. He screamed at the top of his lungs in true Saiyan style. The golden hair around him started to corrupt and turn red. His previously mesmerizing eyes turned blood red. The aura he gave off put so much pressure on everyone on the battlefield, even his teammates. I got this transformation yesterday. Unfortunately, my friends were unable to achieve it as well since they lack the power to handle it. No matter, with this power, this war is as good as over. When he looked into his brother's eyes, he didn't see a look of fear or hatred, but one of contempt. Impatient as usual, brother. I can tell you are highly unstable in that form. It was true, he didn't know how much longer he could sustain the transformation. I will show you a true transformation. Screaming like his brother, the brown hair around him started to turn red. His eyes transformed into one of a true ape. Unbridled with power and rage. He had a look of a true god-killer. Yamashi's eyes widened in response. He truly did not expect this. However, like Yamashi, his brother only got this transformation yesterday by easily combining two existing transformations. He didn't know long he could last. It was the battle of the ages. The entire planet shook in response. The fights of the other Super Saiyans and apes were on hold to watch the battle of the brother above. It was close, but one side was victorious. Yamashi was heaving, holding his left hand in pain. It didn't respond to his commands as he felt dread climb up his spine. With their leader down, it was easier to capture the other Saiyans. How could you side with them, after everything that they have done? This new transformation just proves it, that you are on the wrong side. Right or wrong, it doesn't matter now. Once I defeat you, your legacy will be removed from the annals of time. You will be forever looked upon as the villain. It was the end. His own brother was planning to kill him. No. It couldn't end like this. I will take you and this rotten race with me. Using the last dregs of his power, he simulated his ki similar to the Super Saiyan explosion when he first got his powers. But this time, with divine ki, it was many times bigger. Big enough to consume the planet. The king realized this familiar process and spoke to his generals quickly. Escape. Use the space pods and escape to the nearest habitable planet. But king. Now. It's too late. A sphere of ki encircled him, threatening to burst out in any moment. No. I will hold it off. The king, feeling obliged to his people, stretched out his hands. He forcibly pushed against the sphere of destruction and contained it. It was obvious he couldn't hold it for long, but spaceships were already departing the planet. No. I have failed my mission. Those who have tainted blood will still live while I perish. I am sorry, mother. Yamashi closed his eyes. In a few seconds, he could explode as he felt that his brother couldn't hold on for much longer. His eyes furrowed in confusion when he didn't go off. He could no longer hear any sound. Opening his eyes, he saw that his world has frozen over. The ki around him was as calm as the ocean. Wondering what was going on, he heard a voice behind him. Would you like to take revenge? He turned around, a purple portal appeared out of nowhere. It was small and was inside his ki of impending doom. A pink hand popped out like a zombie out of its grave. Revenge on those who wronged you. Looking inside the portal, he could see a red eye stared back at him. Come to the future, and kill those filthy Saiyans. I will. He reached out and grabbed that hand. It pulled him inside the portal, although it was small enough to fit a cup. He disappeared into the future as the sphere of destruction continued its rampage to destroy the planet. Yamashi opened his eyes, confused as to what happened. All he remembers is staring into the abyss, only for the abyss to pull him in instead of only staring back. The air around him seemed stifled, muddied. He didn't know if that was just his divine senses making him more attuned with the world and therefore making him feel this way, or if the place the demon grabbed him was just like this. Yamashi deactivated Super Saiyan God, but even so, the air around him seemed to suffocate him. As if it wasn't meant for living creatures. He looked around the hut he was in. It was very bare with only walls meeting his vision. He didn't even sleep in a bed but on the hard floor of the house. It was as if the house was only there for decoration and not living. Walking outside, he felt the coldness of space and saw the pink blob that granted his passage here meditating on the floor. His small clothes levitated as did he, like he was in his own world. Then it just stopped. Feeling like the silence could kill him if it went on for any longer, Yamashi spoke up first. Who are you? And, is what you promised true? He, I go by many names but you can call me Buu. And yes, indeed I brought you here to aid me. Buu gave off the feeling of creepiness that Yamashi couldn't put his hand on. However, this had to be put on hold for now since Buu saved him. It was not like he was a prosecutor of justice nor the like, at heart, he was a Saiyan. Just with a little more emotion. I need your help to punish these wicked Saiyans. Their barbaric nature has gone and nearly killed me at every turn. I heard about you and you are the perfect person to help me. Babidi, who Buu absorbed, had the knowledge of Bibidi, a master of magic. Understandably, he had a wealth of knowledge at his disposal, using every advantage he could get. Wicked Saiyans. You said that this is the future. He could feel it, the deceit and cruelty underlying Buu's words. But like it was mentioned before, even if Buu was evil, it didn't matter to him. All that matters is killing his accursed brother's ancestors. Their evil ways have to come to an end if he can't change them. I don't know why I was able to jump to his time period and reach him. Every time I try to go to the future with this right, that destroyer god and his pet are also there to greet me. The time of Yamashi was unstable, likely because of the scale of the event or because someone's time traveled there, making a distortion. Yamashi, this is a once-and-a-lifetime opportunity. The time portal that I brought you through was very unstable and therefore able to have you stay longer, but at most it would only last 3 days. Do what you can for these 3 days and you will be warped back to your original position. Most likely inside the explosion you created, destroying yourself. Buu literally gave the time of his death down to the seconds. It didn't faze the Saiyan, however, as he left to other information on the current situation of Saiyans. With him distracting Goku, eating up his stragglers would be a piece of cake. Do not listen to Buu, you have been tricked. The battle has been going on for 10 minutes and Goku was at his limit. He activated Kaioken, but at this rate, he would need Senzu beans to keep up. That is always a bad sign. Are you saying you are not descendants of the original King Vegeta? Well, I wouldn't say that, let's just say I don't look like him, okay? That didn't deter Yamashi one bit as he kept his fierce assault. This was the first time he fought an ancient Saiyan, naturally, so all of Yamashi's moves and fighting techniques threw him off guard. Goku slid back and made a rope out of ki and expertly wrapped Yamashi's torso. Pulling back, Yamashi started to spin the air a bit. Believing him to be disoriented, he went up to approached only for several haywire ki blasts to get launched everywhere. Yamashi turned into a mini tornado dishing out ki blast. Goku had to deflect each one until a large one came out. Thinking it was the last attack of the barrage, he stopped it with his hands in order to attempt to bring it back. He didn't get far when the ki blast was cut through as Yamashi was hiding behind it and aimed for Goku's throat. He couldn't avoid the lethal blow, so he turned his head as much as he could. The blow hit Goku's throat at a strange angle, not utilizing its potential. Goku fell back, rubbing the side of his neck in pain. Why do you even want to kill us? Several hundred years have passed since you last seen a Saiyan. How do you know that we are as vicious as we once were? They had a lengthy conversation while they were fighting. One would wish it was able the weather and such important topics, but that would be saved for another time. That transformation is a sign that you are similar to him, that you draw your power from the same source as him. That is all I need. You are way too narrow-minded. Each of their head-on exchanges shook the world. Shockwave after shockwave rocketed the planet they were on. The entire universe felt the effects like they did long ago. Dash. Rumble. 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 Who dares wake me up? A grumpy old cat woke up from his slumber all cranky. He looked around and found that his alarm didn't go off and nothing unnatural occurred. So in the most normal fashion, started to snore again. Rumble. That snot bubble was popped by another rumble, and at this point, he couldn't go back to sleep. Angrily jumping out of the bed, he put on his clothes and headed outside to see what the commotion was about. Whiz. What is happening? Oh dear my lord, looks I lost the bet that you wouldn't wake up when this was happening. Who did you bet with? Myself. The feeling of winning and losing at the same time is quite unique. Rumble. Anyway, what's happening? Why, just look for yourself. The shaking affected the whole universe, making some planets fear for their destruction and other primitive ones think it was a holy sign. No matter what, if they continued, someone was going to have to pay a hefty price. Goku was on the losing end. He couldn't see himself winning in a normal battle. Maybe in a battle of stamina with senzu beans, but such a prolonged battle didn't sit right with him. Why would you send him here? To kill the rest of the Saiyans. He should know that Yamashi won't be able to do it. Then why? He knew something was up and now was unsure if he regrets moving to a different location, seeing the cracks on the surface of the planet. He might just have to try it, the oldest trick in the book. One so shameless yet important tactic that Roshi invented himself for situations like these. Look. It's your brother, King Vegeta. What were? Goku's pointed finger quickly turned into a fist that caved in Yamashi's jawline. Hearing a crack, he felt bad but couldn't do anything about it. Seeing the legendary figure slump after that KO shot, that feeling of anxiousness increased at how much easier he thought knocking Yamashi was than he thought. Putting his fingers up to his forehead to travel back to Earth, he strangely found out he couldn't move it. A grip so tight Goku's arm turned purple nearly instantly landed on his teleportation hand. Looking down, he saw a furious Yamashi with purple energy leaking out of him like water. Breathe in, then out. You feel the rage inside wanted to burst out and destroy everything. Don't just push it down inside the back of your mind, shove it down the deep abyss. No matter how slow the latter is to the alternative, it will be better in the long run. I understand what you are saying. Become a monk filled with tranquility and celibacy. Feeling a pair of hot eyes on him, he quickly changed it. I mean patience and virtue and porn mags. The more he spoke, the more he was digging himself, so he took the wise decision and just stopped. Kale, however, found it more than amusing inside this routinely boring training session. Stop making me laugh. Breathe in, then out. The rage, I can feel it simmer down. For some reason, it has been a lot easier since Broly showed up. The two legendary Super Saiyans were meditating while in their Super Saiyan form. Shortly after Broly showed up, they both achieved the hard-earned achievement. It wasn't as if their talent were any less than Cauliflower or even Goku, it was just the condition of their transformation was naturally harder. The two legendary Super Saiyans had some sort of synchronization that training just that much easier. Of course, Chi was a bit jealous that Broly spent so much time with Kale training, but it wasn't like she was going to stop them. She just kept on watching from the control room through the mirror. Sipping on some specially made drink by she was reading a book as well to integrate more into Earth culture. Perhaps that was the reason why she didn't notice Buu enter the training grounds. That, or you could barely see him. Collapsed onto the floor to look like spilled liquid, coupled with an invisibility spell to boot, he was able to easily go inside the control room and too looked inside the glass without Chi noticing. Feeling the power that the two gave in waves, it was as if he was hit with pure ecstasy. Such raw power. Such raw potential. He just wanted to gobble it all if the drool on his mouth didn't give it away. Going under the door like water, he was slowly approaching the behind of the closest target. Kale's sweaty back was easily exposed for Buu to see. Broly's eyes shot up in seconds and scanned the room. He looked behind Kale intensely multiple times before scratching his head in confusion. Kale opened up one eyelid along with its eyebrow to question Broly. Something wrong, Broly? Nothing. Broly shook his head and got right back to meditation. Maybe it was the rage trying to cloud his senses, or maybe the constant paranoia that he attained when facing dangerous situations. Dangerous situations wouldn't exist soon as long as he trained hard. He wasn't doing this training for himself but for the people around him. Buu was sweating bullets after the intense stare down by Broly. Buu averted his eyes down in fear that Broly's senses would alert him more. He could have confidence in fighting an enraged legendary Super Saiyan as he could trick them, but two sane ones are out of his league. Buu furrowed his imaginative brows and scuttled in the corner. He needed to wait for the perfect opportunity until he acted. He could tell Broly was more alert and decided to wait it out a little bit longer. Waiting was in his portfolio after all. Another senzu down the drain, I don't have much left. Yamashi was going crazy with a purple aura swirling around him like an evil entity. Ever since he got this boost, everything about him multiplied. With no visible strain on his body, Goku was at a disadvantage right away again. Yamashi came crashing down after he ate that senzu bean, but Goku flipped out of the way. Bouncing on the ground like a ball, he torpedoed towards Goku, forcing him to stretch out his arms and stop his push. Hands met and they clasped each other before Goku started sliding back several feet. Eventually, Goku stopped kicking dirt up, revealing Yamashi with several veins protruding from his forehead. What the heck are you doing? Doping. You know that is illegal, right? I don't know what you joke about, but that Buu was right when telling me I would use this against you. Buu gave that to you. But where is your Majin mark? Don't tell me, if you need to console anything to me just say it. I've seen too many doujin to know where this is headed. Get your head out of your fantasies. I didn't take any marks. That be you did some sort of magical spell or something. Told me that it will boost me more than the Majin mark but I will turn weak afterward. Oh, thanks for telling me. Not like you will live to see it. Goku's hands started to bend down in the contest of strength. Soon he was kneeling on one knee trying to hold on. Sparks of lightning started to course around Goku with his appearance turning more feral but that instantly vanished as fast as it came. Dang it. True Super Saiyan isn't as easy to combine with ape like regular Super Saiyan is but, I have to keep trying. Goku did everything he had to combine the two transformations to get the power boost he needed. He did it so much and so desperately that his ki started to spiral crazily and any semblance of control was thrown out the window. Ah! Screaming to the sky you could see Goku's transformation turning more and more into an ape. Markings on his face became more accentuated and his eyes started to gloss over. It would seem he finally broken through and became something more. If only. His eyes turned a bright red, the same way great apes do. His struggling and human vocal cords started to become more and more primitive and desperate. The wildness took over Goku's body and he bit into Yamashi's forearm. Hard. Like trying to tear meat from the bone. He tried to let go of the hole but Goku wanted to clasp his hands not letting go. Before a portion of his arm went down Goku's throat, he kicked the stomach of the kneeling man making him release his teeth. He inwardly celebrated that he didn't kick his face or else the deep bite marks would be the only thing left of his arm. Yamashi backed away and what he saw wasn't a man or even a Saiyan. It was as if the guy gave himself to the devil with the way Goku's eyes preyed on Yamashi with his arms out ready to smash. Ooh. Pounding his chest, the original Goku was long gone replaced with this maddened version. Jumping up towards Yamashi with leg strength that no one can compete in a million leg days, so I wondered how gravity was pulling him down so fast. Not wanting to get crushed, he disappeared from that spot into 10 meters away. Goku landing on the ground rumbled the planet and created a web with a crater at the center. He tried to make out the silhouette standing up inside the dirt that blew up but regretted it instantly. Those red eyes that stared him down made him freeze in his tracks. Rows of sharp teeth for chomping meat were shown as he opened his mouth. Exhaling, steam exited his mouth from the excitement that was boiling in his body. Like the ape he was, he jumped again making the crater bigger, and was ready to come down and smash that ancient Saiyan to a pulp. What do you want to do now, Broly? Kale and Broly were just finishing up their training as they wiped the sweat off their bodies. Not too sure. Broly kept up his vigilance throughout the whole training session but it turned out to be for naught. He trusted his instinct that has helped him numerous times over the dangerous years yet it seemed as if the peace affected him more than he thought. Finally you guys are done. Let's go out and have some fun. Chilai was an exuberant bundle of joy who just wanted to get out of this cramped space waiting for them to finish. She snatched the book she was reading and they all headed towards the bathroom to shower. Ah! I forgot it. That ear thing. Yeah, I remember you going inside the training facility with it. You really never leave without it, huh? You two girls go on ahead, I'll catch up quickly. They nodded their heads and retreated inside the house. Broly walked down the paved road a few meters before arriving at the training grounds once again. Opening the door, he scanned his vision across the room once more. After finding nothing again, he shook his head at his silliness. Going over to the rack where he left his green ear that he usually wears around his waist, he thought that the rack looked a little peculiar. He stared at the rack for a couple of seconds. The rack didn't move at all. Broly didn't know what to expect from the rack staring at it like that. He grabbed his ear, but when he pulled, it didn't budge. Thinking it got stuck, he tried to look at it from a different angle to pull it from. That was when pink goo-like bubblegum stretched out from the rack and latched onto his body. His eyes widened in surprise before trying to pull the sticky substance from his arm. It just wouldn't get away from him, sticking to him like glue on a mousetrap catching its prey. He didn't so much as to hesitate and turned Super Saiyan. Being a famed legendary Super Saiyan, when he transformed, his figure buffed up more than his original big size. His hair turned yellow while his eyes' pupils disappeared, turning completely white. Despite this, he maintained more or less control and desperately tried to pull himself out of this sticky situation. But it was like the rack, instead of cowering, waited for this moment. The entire rack turned pink and in no time encased Broly in an impromptu sphere. Realizing the severity of the situation, he pulled even stronger, gaining some unknown force. Eventually, he was able to pull himself out of the initial grab, but it was too late. His entire body was already covered in the sphere with only one gap remaining for him to see through. "I would tell myself I told you." Those were his last words before the pink sphere closed in and created a ball. It was as if Broly disappeared, melted from the physical space that he occupied. The sphere turned into a tightly formed ball. The ball continuously morphed and jutted up like it was being stretched from the inside. The ball glowed a little before it started to take form. Instead of Broly, the pink alien took his form. Exposing his torso and up with pure muscle with plain training clothes cover his legs. Accompanying his waist was the precious ear Broly dotted on. It looked exactly like it did before, like it wasn't absorbed at all. "That feels nice." Buu was admiring his new powers and even started to flex his muscles all over the place. He was able to go to the house and look for an opportunity there, but who knew they would come to him? They fell into his lap and no doubt he would capitalize on it. He looked at the muscles adorning his body and mused. They were merely for decoration, as his body was naturally mushy with or without muscles. Thankfully, he only took the good powers and not the simple mind that Broly had. "Broly, you good in there? We are waiting out here. What's taking so long?" He heard what he came to know as Chi from outside the facility. It seemed as if she was about to come in. No matter. She was so weak that killing her or absorbing her was inconsequential. "No, I want a tastier meal." His red eyes glinted before he sneaked through the back by melting once more. Chi opened the door to the training grounds and looked around. She couldn't have missed him even if he hid with that big body, so where was he? "Broly. What the hell are you? A rabid animal?" Yamashi was fighting against a creature that relied on pure instinct. This, although couldn't really be called a transformation, definitely proved to get the upper hand in the exchange. On his road to further improving Super Ape, he stumbled upon this ape variant. This variant contains not only the slick and figure and power of a Super Ape but tapped into the unbridled rage that was hidden within. When using the ape transformation, it was all about staying calm. In any situation, one had to stay calm in order for the transformation to stay active. It was obviously good to be calm and collected in a fight, but sometimes rage was what you needed in some situations. Unlocking this variant, he was able to increase his power several-fold without burdening his body like Kaioken. Just at the cost of his rationality. a wide swing descending on Yamashi from his left. He put both of his arms to block, and as Goku's forearm connected with his defense, he felt like his arms broke from the sheer weight that was carried from that attack. He has pushed back a couple of meters again. The enraged Goku didn't relent and chased him another leap. Yamashi felt it like he was fighting an actual ape. Overwhelming. Indomitable. Fierce. He couldn't last any longer, so he had to at least snap Goku off his reverie, or else he will be crushed under those arms. Wild Cannon. Shooting an energy blast at Goku, the latter turned his head instantly after hearing the noise. Pounding his chest and screaming, the waves emitting just from that alone negated the blast. This is my last chance, now or nothing. Yamashi took a deep breath and inflated his lungs. He then ejected all that air from his mouth in front of him. His ultimate move was to release gas. That's it, guys. Hope you like the video. Like, share and subscribe the channel, and also make sure you tell me your recommendation in the comment section down below. Thanks for watching.